Hey everyone, so welcome back to the final segment of this 3-part video on the topic of Ukemi, with which we are going to address specifically how to survive messing up the cat pass or the Kong vault. So let's dive right in. Cat pass, otherwise known as the Kong vault, because there's quite a few components that goes into surviving a mess up of this, and it perfectly demonstrates how various techniques listed above comes into play from this specific move with variations from a slip up. To better illustrate the point, I'm going to share various clips from the various other parkour companies and teams such as Storror, Team Flat, Amos from Apex Movement, his Ukemi channel examples. So we are going to start off with some of how the knees and the feet clip upon takeoff when you are executing your Kong. So in this case, he takes on the full blunt of the impact, thus breaking his arm, and it happens. Because the unexpected happens, it does take a while for us to register, but those moments are key for us to brace for impact and try our utmost to make the best of a horrible situation. As much as possible, as mentioned, we like to avoid taking full-on impact. So here's a clip from one of the parkour founders, Belle. This involved a hand slip, which is a common accident when executing a Kong.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
Here you notice that once David realizes that his hand slipped, he immediately twisted his body, curled to use his back muscles to brace for impact instead. In this case, he had already committed to the move and the body has already launched. Moreover, this drop on the other side, while deep, unlike the previous one, which has too much and is quite hard to salvage from that situation. The following is another example of a hand slip, but an earlier realization, hence there's an additional step to change the course and the trajectory. Here Toby's cigar hand slipped and immediately he tried to have his leg bring down. However, the initial momentum had already forced his body forward, but a slight moment of deceleration caused his legs, because his leg was down, gave him a moment to change his grip into a grab to further slow down his velocity as he tried to twist out into a slap out instead. You will see a similar move from his teammate Benjamin Cave. However, with more drop, sticking close to the wall as possible and twisting faster, he landed with his feet and walked away unscathed.
Wow! Electric! Wow!
Next, we'll explore what commonly happens when we messed up our cat pass at a flat plane. Either we had knocked our knees at takeoff or clipped our feet, or had our hips too high. Notice that Yasha's hands begin to flare, but he quickly seeks to drive the feet down to resume into a normal roll. At times you don't have the chance,
drive the leg down,
which you will observe in the next clip.
Oh! Fuck!
Here, Bart van der Linden demonstrates the usual exit when our hands slip. This demonstrates why I always emphasize in class that dive throw is so important. This exit is within the range of relative safety when there is a clearing and if there is a drop from the height, especially when it's within a 1 meter range. While any higher, there is a quite amount of impact, so there is really a need for you to adjust your entry into a roll in order to avoid getting your head hit the ground. However, if there isn't a clearing, then there's far much more variable to consider. The following case is when, at the point of clearing, your hips are still too high for your legs to enter through in between your hands to finish the move. Usually, dive throw is very much still applicable. However, the following are some alternative examples as possibility. In this particular case is Mason feet. For this move, there is relative strength, flexibility, and no doubt an altitude of spiral awareness involved. Here is another one. Dimitri Gonzalez displayed how, with muscular strength, spiral awareness, and skills, he exited the Kong with a cartwheel as an alternative means for breaking fall. Here, Anton Lopez
Steep and quickly drove his legs down.
with 1 feet, but the velocity continued pushing forward, and you notice that in the mid,
Air.
he twisted in an attempt to come in for a side flip. Now, even if you landed the Kongpri, the unexpected can always still happen, as you will see in this clip. As mentioned, even when you have landed, and slips can always still happen, and you notice how he tries to lower his center of gravity as soon as possible, as much as possible, and attempt to grab, to hold, if not at least to slow down his momentum. When falling from height, he twisted and seek to spot the ground before immediately rolling away from the drop in which he have taken. I just want to end off with, always make sure to do your best to cover all bases. Breaking fall is a key aspect in parkour. Know what to do when you fall will raise your confidence in breaking jumps tremendously. However, as mentioned prior, you ought to always do your due diligence, especially when it's merely a training scenario. Prepping the spot, cleaning the space of your takeoff, your landing, the sole of your feet, and testing the grip of the surface, setting a spotter if need be for areas that you can't cover or merely to raise your confidence. These are integral aspects when it comes to preventing injuries, protecting what could happen should the worst occur. May just increase your survivability and longevity in your training journey. Final words. Once you have taken impact from messing up from your move, unless you really feel the innate need to immediately go through that move all over again in order to not let the fear for that move set in, cease your training immediately. Find ice and proceed as fast as possible to initiate the first aid procedure, rest, ice, compress and elevate. Because you might think that you're alright, but really it's just the adrenaline rushing through your body and you haven't felt the pain yet. So take at least like 20 minutes off, and if necessary, call it a day if need be. So in Greek, there are 2 words when it comes to knowledge and knowing. Number one is called logos, which is translated to head knowledge, whereas the other one is known as rhema, which is knowledge by experience. This video is basically equipping you with the logos, the know-hows, but it's really the application, the rhema, that will save your life. And that comes by training, by drilling in the classes. In every move, even the ones that you do till second nature and seemingly easy, always have the most serious of mind in your execution. Accidents can happen, and if it does, you want to be as present as you can. I hope this lesson has been comprehensive and will be a lifesaver ahead. Until then, I'll see you for the next class. Bye bye.